This episode of The So-Called Prophet from Pittsburgh contains discussion of sexual abuse, so it is not appropriate for everyone. I am currently barreling down the highway in the American Midwest. I left this morning, I left Pittsburgh, and here I am 4 states later to meet Shiloh. She grew up in the group. Her family brought her in to the cult when she was 2 years old, and she was there until she was 19 years old. Got out about 5 years ago. But yeah, she heard this podcast and decided that now is a good time as any to talk, and that she was ready to talk to someone and tell her story. Hi, Shiloh. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for... Recording time left, so... Oh, that's a good reminder. Just put your phones on silence.
Right.
Scam likely. I hate those calls.
Yeah. I've always been hesitant to talk with people, just because of the fact that I guess both my parents are there and I have siblings there. And it's hard because you're so ingrained into it that it's a very real thing for people there. I guess they just have such a hold on you. It takes years for it to wear off and go away, and to just there's still it's subconscious, but this fear of them, where I still feel they have a power over my mind in a sense. Yeah. Which sucks because I don't know if that makes sense.
It sounds almost like you're aware of how whatever you say is going to sound to Gabriel, and how he's going to talk about you to the community, because nobody in the community is going to hear this.
He won't let them.
Right. So it's what's the danger, I guess, or what's the feeling that you have? I
guess it's just the feeling of because I grew up there, and it was everything I knew growing up, it was just ingrained to me if you're not there, you're evil and you're a bad person. And he has power over people by instilling fear in them. And when you've grown up your entire life, I know that it's not true, but there's still I guess coping mechanisms that I've built up. I don't know how to put my finger on it exactly. Yeah. There's just an instilled fear still of them, kind of. Mm-hmm. And I've worked really hard to not let them have power over my life. Mm-hmm. And not that they're trying to get themselves involved in my life now, but just even my thought processes and the way I go about things. My whole life, I have not been able to say what's on my mind or how I'm thinking or feeling, because you do ask questions there, you stand up or you show, your actual personality, you get in trouble and you get beat down for that. It's kind of taken out of you.
Shiloh's family is prominent in the GCCA. Her uncle is Josh Lilly, who we heard from in previous episodes. Her grandfather, Dan Lilly, was an elder before leaving a few years ago. His ex-wife, Centria, is Gabriel's main financial advisor. And Shiloh's mother, father, and siblings are still followers of Gabriel.
And it sucks because my siblings are there, and I know that they're not getting proper schooling, and they're never allowed to be alone anymore. Just supervision everywhere, and that is they're really a lot of them are starting to show like really bad anger issues, when you're not allowed to, like, you get in trouble for every little fight you have with your friends. Like, that's normal. You should be having squabbles with your friends. Like, that's how you learn to, like, get along and work things out. And, like, yes, you need guidance sometimes, but the punishments have gotten more and more severe. And if a kid acts out and is, like, vehemently, like, actually bad, like, what might be a normal consequence for a child, maybe you eat dinner and go to bed right away, or you lose privileges for certain things. There's this one girl, they took away everything in her room. She was sleeping on the floor. They took away her bed. She had one pair of clothes that she had to hand wash, and she was in isolation, couldn't play with her friends, would get up, do her chores. Sometimes they, would be out of school too with their isolation, and they'd be working and then have dinner, do your chores, go to bed. And you had to earn back all your toys, your clothes, your bed.
That particular person you're talking about, is that like the worst of it, or is that kind of typical? I
feel like it's become more typical of a punishment for the kids there now.
That's like solitary confinement.
It is extremely mentally destructive, and as a kid, like, you're deprived of the opportunity to be a kid, and you have to grow up really fast.
I asked Anskrita this, but I'd be curious what you would say to this. Like, what was it like growing up thinking that the world was going to end?
It was weird. I also don't recall growing up and, like, thinking anything about my life past 18, because I didn't think that I would make it to that either. And it was like this big event. I was like, kept waiting for something to happen, and nothing kept happening. But it's a constant, like, hype up. Like, you're hyped up about it. Like, oh my God. Like, it creates this, like, energy that everyone has, where you build up, like, it builds up this excitement almost, where, like, you're excited, but you're scared.
It's probably important to have things like that to get excited about in a place that's otherwise so boring.
You have to have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
You have to always have something that you are moving towards. Yeah, like, I don't know. It's always something, like, you have this big destiny and you're not there yet. You're this fallen soul and you have to keep working on your patterns, and that's what you're doing right now. But eventually, maybe, if you get there, you have this big, huge destiny and you feel like you're super special. So you feel like you have all this stuff to work on and you're nothing. And at the same time, like, you have this special destiny and you're unique.
So is Gabriel dangerous in the sense of, like, Waco or guns or any of that stuff? Like, do you have an opinion about that?
I've always thought that he's not. But I know that over the past few years, they have stockpiled up some guns. And I know it's for their safety because they're by the border. But when it comes down to it, I really don't know. I don't think that he's the kind of person that is like, let's drink the Kool-Aid. Right. I don't think he is, but I mean, neither do those people before it happens. And what it comes down to is it a dangerous cult like that? No, but very quickly it could be. It is a dangerous cult, very much so, because when you have that kind of psychological control on people, I think it's half and half. I think if Gabriel died or if something happened, I feel like there's people there who would, move on and recover from this and be okay. Mm-hmm. And there's people there who are so damaged that they might try and commit suicide, and there's people there who will just never recover. And there's definitely ex-members who have never recovered. It really bothers me. It's very messed up there. Like, they are severely damaging people for life, and a lot of people won't be able to recover from that and have not been able to recover from that. And it's really sad to see. So...
What's the change point?
Maybe that's the beginning of the millennium.
What's the planetary prince?
I don't know, but I don't think it's Prince Charles.
What's the mandate of the bright and morning star?
It's a person.
It's an appointed office. Superman? Do you think that disease finds people or people find disease?
Perhaps some people cause their own disease by rebellious negative thinking.
Do you think that the crazy weather has anything to do with the Earth changes?
Yes, the weather is a result of the rebellion on this planet. Mother Earth is shifting into a higher reality.
What's an audio fusion material complement?
We don't have anything like that in India.
Is there life on other planets?
Probably not as intelligent as us.
Do you believe in spaceships?
Even we went to the moon.
Do you believe in the rapture of the church?
Could that be evacuation by spacecraft?
What's a starseed?
Sounds like a cosmic vegetable.
Does spirituality have anything to do with leadership?
What is planetary divine government?
Let's just talk about who you are and how you ended up in the GCCA. Maybe just tell us who is Danny Gonzalez?
That's a complex question.
Danny Gonzalez is a 28-year-old ex-member of the GCCA. For a time, he was married to Gabriel's daughter, Eleonora. They have one child together, a son. Tell me about that initial entry. Like, what happened when you got there the first time?
Man, it was like a love bombing. You know, they see you, they give you all this love and respect, and they kind of make you feel like your family, like they're your best friends in the world. It's kind of like what you call the honeymoon period. And I didn't realize it till later on, but these people that would be with you all the time were kind of like the designated companions, is what they would call them. Like, they check in on you, make sure you see how you're doing, see how you're retaining the information, if the information is being retained, and how you're processing, and what do you think about the information. They kind of custom tailor people that are already there to be in interaction with those new people that do come. You won't catch it right off the bat, but then you start realizing after a couple of weeks, a month, two passes by, and you're like, wow, these same people keep coming around me. They match you up with those people when you do join. They still remain your unspoken companions. They often roommate you with them. So, like, you'll have that companion that you were initially made contact with. They'll become your roommate. They want them to keep an eye on you while that's all going on, so that if there's any, like, little, anomaly in your behavior, they report it immediately to their elders, and then their elders immediately get back to them, and they tell them how to speak to you and how to kind of redirect where your mind's going to their favor,
Yeah, so you joined in 2014, and you said you kind of like got brought into the inner circle right away. Can you describe that to me?
Yeah, so my involvement with the inner circle came pretty quickly. Another huge factor involved in that was my wife, the person I had married when I went in there. The founder's daughter took a liking to me pretty quickly, and because of that, they were kind of bringing me around Gabriel a lot. They were inviting me to their dinners in their little exclusive home, that nobody ever got to see in 25 years, besides, the upper echelon and those that they invited over. Gabriel kind of had a thing for Native Americans, and he really never got in any Native American circles because of his, the way he wanted to impose his authority on their culture.
This Hopi shaman, he is probably a Hopi who is much like a white guy, a new ager, and probably seeking his own self-claim.
And then here comes me and my cousin, these two young Native Americans, to which one of them his daughter took liking to. He was like, oh, so I immediately started being brought into their, preparedness meetings, which is where they had these groups of people meeting with each other to prepare for the end of the world and what we're going to do for the end of the world. And that was really unheard of. I mean, people that have been there for 10, 13 years weren't even involved in some of the stuff that I was.
Would you say that he was almost like grooming you for a leadership role?
Absolutely. No, that's exactly what he was grooming me for. Marrying his daughter, he groomed me to marry his daughter and to become a leader in that community.
The couple married in June 2016, when Danny was 24 and Eleonora was 18. When you got married, I imagine it was like some kind of weird cosmic wedding service. Could you tell me about your...
Yeah, it was a wedding with a cosmic twist, if that makes sense.
Yeah, describe it to me. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the general wedding. You have 5 grooms and 5 bridesmaids. You have the vow carriers, the flower girls, the little, the boys that walk through, the ring carriers. You had all that stuff, but there was this like, underlying like Gabriel of Urantia and Neon Emerson Chase's power here, and they're getting married for the furtherment of this planetary mission and to serve Gabriel of Urantia under the mandate of the bright and morning star. Like, it's, they have their own little script that they read at every wedding, and it's kind of weird, but, I did my best to focus on just my wife who was in front of me, who I was very much in love with.
What's it like dating Gabriel's daughter?
Honestly, you kind of get a lot of perks when you're dating the founder's daughter, and the respect that they already had for the founder's daughter and the respect that they have for him, on whatever level and for whatever reason they give it to him. Whoever's dating these whether it be his son or his daughters, that partner automatically gets, put on a pedestal with them.
How did things end up going bad?
Well, there's a number of things. It's hard to really point the finger at one thing. The fact that they overwork us, the fact that they give us these goals that are like seemingly impossible to reach. They say, oh yeah, we're working for the next world, but right now we're working 16-hour days and like running ourselves into the ground. The pressure on me to try to meet up to the standard of what she needed as a husband, according to their doctrine. Her husband needed to be this super extravagant cosmic person that backed her father 100%, which I did when I was there. I was, I would have taken a bullet for him while I was there. That's how loyal I was to Gabriel, because I was trying to prove that loyalty to be able to be with his daughter.
Like, really, it seems like there's a lot of drama and a lot of like different relationships forming and breaking up in the community.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute control tactic, because you're keeping somebody on edge all the time. Their nerves are constantly shot. They don't know what's coming from their left or their right, let alone up, down, side, all the other directions. It's a way to make them want to work as hard and as long and however moral or whatever for him. It makes them want to do these things so that their marriages or their relationships do survive, which 95% of them don't. I was hardly home. I was constantly trying to work to make a name for myself so that I could live up to the standard that my wife needed to be in a relationship with. So she was hanging out with this other guy, and I'm not a jealous person, so I was not giving 2 thoughts to it because I trusted her so much, Come to find out, she had developed feelings for this person, and she separated from me 3 days after he divorced his wife. I just got pulled into a meeting after band rehearsal one day, and they pulled me in a room. It was her, 2 of their elders, and I was pissed. They said, "You're moving out tonight. You're going to be put into this little tiny home, and you're going to live there." And basically, they put me on a program that I had to follow strictly. I had to have 2 meetings a week with 2 of their elders to counsel me on how bad of a person I was and convincing me that I was the reason why my marriage went down.
Danny is describing the cult system of coercive counseling, the Personality Integration Rehabilitation Program, or PIRP.
I went through a 5-month process. I was doing everything they were asking me, reading the books that they wanted me to read, writing reports on the books they made, writing reports on the counseling sessions that they were having on me. It just sucked the entire time. It came to the point where I was convincing myself of things that weren't even true. I'm like, maybe I was like that type thing. Maybe I did do those. Maybe I was neglectful. And kind of convincing myself, because they had been drilling me for 5 months, that this is in fact what I was doing. And even after all of that happened, I got handed their form of their divorce papers. They call them dissolution papers, but eternal friends. And they said, okay, she still wants to have a divorce. And I'm like, really? And it was in that moment I was like, this is all bullshit. And I signed the papers, and I called Sanskrit that night. And it was hard for me. It was really hard for me, because I knew I'd have to leave my son there, and I would have to go through some crazy legal battles with them. And I knew that right off the bat. So that night I packed everything into bags and bins, and I put it into my shop. And right when they said, we're here at the gate, I met Josh at the gate, or at the fence line, and I handed him all my stuff, drove the golf cart back, and took off and never looked back.
After leaving the community in 2018, Danny found himself in a fierce custody battle with his ex-wife, Gabriel's daughter. Then, on February 13th, 2019, Danny was arrested by the Santa Cruz County Sheriff for sexual conduct with a minor and furnishing harmful items to minors. According to the arrest and booking form, a 14-year-old girl in the cult disclosed to her parents that she had been engaged in sexual intercourse and oral sexual intercourse with one of her teachers, Danny Gonzalez, who was 27 at the time. She also said that they sent naked pictures to each other. He was charged with 10 counts altogether and went to jail for 3 months before making bail. Danny claims that he was set up by Gabriel and that he is innocent of the charges.
Because of the nature, due to the nature of some of the charges, I had to be put into maximum security, which was like a solitary confinement type thing. But you get it's like 23-hour lockdown, 1-hour rec. And it's total. It's like nothing but concrete. You know what I mean? You're surrounded by nothing but concrete. You can see a rectangle of the blue sky, and that's it. I don't know, man. I about lost my mind the first week. They didn't bring me a book, writing material, a Bible. I mean, hey, I'm not even Christian, but I wanted a damn Bible to read. You know what I mean? I wanted something other than my own mind and what the hell just happened, you know?
To this day, Danny denies the charges. He claims that this was all a setup, that the girl who accused him was put up to it by Gabriel, and that this was Gabriel's way of getting revenge. I didn't know how to feel about any of this, so I sort of filed it away until one day, after months spent working on this podcast, I heard about an ex-member, a woman who was sexually abused while living in the community as a child. So I reached out to her, and she named names: children, girls who had been abused, and the men and boys who had allegedly abused them. There were 4 girls whose abuse she disclosed in detail. 2 of them are living outside the community, 1 who remains in the community, and 1 who has now passed away. She agreed to speak on the record, as long as I took steps to protect her privacy. To be clear, I'm not saying that the children are being abused by Gabriel, or that this activity is being sanctioned by the cult. What I am saying, however, if these allegations are true, is that children in the cult have been abused, that this problem hasn't been dealt with adequately by the cult's leadership, and that it could happen again. In fact, it could be happening right now. What follows is the story of one of the victims, an adult who was abused while she was still living in the community. To protect her privacy, her words are being read by a voice actor.
I don't remember, the very first time, and some of it's repressed, but, if we were sitting together, he would just stick his hand in my pants underneath and start by grabbing my, my private parts and, messing around with them for, long periods of time. And he'd always put, a backpack over our laps, or a pillow, and this is happening, in classes. We were, in class, when we were doing math under the table. He would just do it, everywhere. I'm not even kidding. Everywhere. I mean, it's different now. Now they have very strict rules. The boys and girls can't sit in the same couches together. Now, why? I don't know. Maybe they did notice and they never, thought to counsel us or help us through. Maybe they thought it wasn't a big deal, but they should do something about it. I know I started feeling very negative about my sexuality, very shameful about myself at around 10 years old. I started feeling like I was to blame for anything that happened to me.
During our conversation, she revealed the names of 2 abusers. one of whom is still in the community.
He's a troubled person, but he went through a phase where he started recognizing that he had problems. And he felt a lot of shame. This is more in his later 20s. And he felt a lot of shame. He felt a lot of embarrassment. And he did confess. He confessed to eldership a lot of his issues. He basically gets erections when he sees young men peeing, and likes to show his erect penis to children. I think there's definitely things he could have done that were worse, but I think he was trying to be as honest as he could without them kicking him out officially.
After he confessed to the elders, the matter was referred to the Personality Integration and Rehabilitation Program.
They did not go to the authorities or anything like that, but he's also somebody who grew up there and they consider him their own. I think one of my concerns is they don't really take seriously the world of psychiatric professionalism. And so because they feel that problems can be solved and healed through spiritual growth. So I think that maybe they believe that they can truly fix someone, that truly someone can change, entirely. It goes along with their philosophy.
This woman's other abuser worked as the children's caregiver when she was roughly 4 to 6 years of age.
I don't know who decided or how it was decided, but he was our caregiver for a while. We spent hours every day with him. And I remember, he showed us his penis a lot. He asked us inappropriate questions. When he slept over with us, he did ask us to sleep naked on top of him. And I just remember saying I would. And I felt really ashamed and I felt really dirty. I just felt so disgusting the next night. And I do remember us after he left. We told our parents about him showing us his penis. But I never told them about him asking us to lie naked on him.
Shiloh, who we heard from earlier, also told me that she was abused while a member of the GCCA.
There has been some sexual abuse there, and it's not an encouraged open thing, but it happens, and they cover it up. I was sexually abused for a couple years, at 5 and 6 years old, and I was scared, and I felt like I was the bad person, and I didn't have anyone to go to, when you're constantly getting in trouble and everything, you eventually just stop talking about how you're feeling and you just hold it all in. And I've done it my whole life.
And then is this a person who's still in the community, or is it more than one person or one person, or?
There were a couple, but the main one, I don't know if they found out or he confessed. This was years later, 7 years later. I think I was 12 or 13. And that's when I had my first counseling session. I got called into a meeting with Linda Cunningham and Gabriel's current wife. And I thought I was in trouble. I didn't know what it was about. And they sat me down and told me that basically he'd told them what had happened. And they wanted all the details, and I'm 13 years old. It's been 7 years, and I've had to face this person almost every day since.
Yeah. Who is this?
I don't know if I want to say.
Well, let's do this. I turned the recorder off, and Shiloh gave me the name of her abuser. This confirmed what I had been hearing from other former members of the GCCA.
They told me that he told them what happened, and they said he's going to be writing you an apology letter, which he never did. I don't care. And that was it, basically. They pushed it under the rug, and it never came up again. But I got put onto a program, and I wasn't allowed to be alone with men. Like, I was the one who'd provoked it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it does psychological damage to you. You start thinking that you're not a good person, or that you're not worth it, you know? And I had to face him every day, and he kind of like came after me again when I was 14. And he made like an inappropriate comment in advance towards me, and I told him, excuse my language, but to get the fuck away from me. Mm. And I told someone, and they told me that I need to stop flaunting myself. And I was like, what? Like, I just told this person, you know, who used to abuse me, to stay away from me, and I'm being blamed, mm-hmm. you know? And since that has happened with me, he has verbally said that he's, you know, had an attraction to little boys as well. Mm-hmm. He's done things to animals. He's a sick person, and he should be in jail. And it just blows my mind that they allow that. Like, they basically allow sexual abuse there because they're not doing anything about the abusers. And I know they don't encourage it, but by not doing anything about it, they're encouraging it.
I was mulling all this over when a video arrived in my email inbox from an anonymous source. It contained a lo-fi 640 by 480 video file, apparently filmed with a fisheye surveillance camera in the ceiling of a drab-looking interview room. This is a law enforcement interview with Danny's victim. A leather easy chair is positioned in one corner of the room, and an office chair is placed along the opposite wall. In one corner, text is superimposed on the screen. Children's Advocacy Center, Interview Room 3. I'm going to play excerpts from the interview because her voice and image are already part of the public record. But since she's a minor and an abuse victim, I won't use her name or any audio clips that reveal details of her life that could be used to identify her.
Right? We'll only be talking about things that really happened, so things that are true. Mm-hmm. Do you promise to talk to me about things that really happened?
Yes.
Okay, so how come you're here to talk to me today?
Because in June, I had a teacher, and I had a crush on him, and I met with him.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Okay, so when you say met with him, what does that mean?
Well, I was texting him for a while, and then he asked if he wanted to meet me at like our school, mm-hmm. and then another place, and I said yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then what happened?
And then the first time we just kind of talked. Well, he was going through like a divorce, mm-hmm. and he like just divorced, and we met and we were just talking about that kind of the first time, and then we met again, and he asked me if I wanted to play Truth or Dare, mm-hmm. and I said yeah. And
according to the victim, Danny was a teacher at the cult school. She had a crush on him, and one day he suggested that they started messaging each other. This led to secret meetings at night and inappropriate sexual contact.
We were just laying next to you.
Laying next to you. Okay, and where were you guys laying?
On a bed.
On a bed. Okay, and so...
In the guest house.
In the guest house? Okay, is there more than one room in the guest house?
There's like, it's just like a really small, it's like a round little house with like 2 rooms.
Okay, and which room are you guys in?
The smaller room.
The smaller room. Okay, so you guys were laying in the bed, and then what's the very next thing that happened? Are you worried about something?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't, because people tell me that it's his fault that he did it, but I mean, I still don't really feel it's his fault. That, because I'm the one who chose to do it, and I wanted to, and I don't want him to get in trouble, really.
Yeah.
Or go to jail or have to do something. I don't know.
Okay, so I forgot to ask you, when this was happening, how old were you?
14.
You were 14? Yeah, okay.
I had spoken with Danny Gonzalez on the phone several times through the summer and fall of 2019. When first arrested, he was charged with 10 counts of sexual conduct with a minor under the age of 15. But it seemed like each time we spoke, Danny told me that the prosecutor had come to him with a new, more lenient plea deal. He made it sound like this was further proof of his innocence, as if the county knew that this was all a setup and were trying to get any prosecution at all, no matter how minor. Then, in 2019, Danny called and told me the good news. His new lawyer had worked out a deal where he would plead guilty to 1 count of attempted sexual abuse. For this, he believed he would get a sentence of probation and no jail time. I didn't tell him that I had seen the interview video or that I suspected he was guilty. The sentencing was scheduled for the following Monday. Over the weekend, Danny asked Laird Scott to help him record a video explaining why he, an innocent man, was pleading guilty to the crime. He clearly wanted to use social media to put his own spin on things.
So anyways, like where I'm at now, I just want to speak, I guess, to my son, my daughters. Like, I'm doing what I have to do right now so that I could see them and that they can grow up knowing me and being with me in whatever capacity that I'm allowed to, because being in prison, I would not be allowed to see them, at least with this plea and this probation available, I'd be able to be there for them in as much of a capacity as I can be. And I want them to know that that's my main purpose of being out here, is to create a functional and sustainable environment for them to be in.
Danny seemed confident that he wouldn't go to prison. But the fact that he was filming this video for his kids, just in case, indicates that he was worried about the upcoming plea hearing.
Daddy has to take a hit, not only for himself, but he has to take a hit for a lot of other people. And I think this is kind of the beginning of unraveling that that thread. There's a thread that's on that sweater. We're pulling on it, and it just takes one good pull, and that whole thing's gonna unravel.
Danny seems to think, or he wants us to believe, that he's sacrificing his good name out of a desire to be present in his kids' lives, and that this is part of the larger struggle against Gabriel Fiorancha. He's riffing here, and it's not entirely clear how his sacrifice will bring down the cult. Perhaps he thinks that people will rally around him after this obvious miscarriage of justice is exposed.
Yeah, I'm just here to be a survival story that's a success story out of like a phoenix out of the ashes. That's pretty much what I want to show an example of. Like, this is a pretty extreme thing to go through, and I'm playing martyr. I'll be the martyr. You want me to be the Peter of this cult? I'll be the example of Peter. I'll take the hit.
Danny's plea hearing was scheduled for Monday, December 16. When I called his phone that night, it went straight to voicemail. I tried again a day or two later. Same thing. I didn't get around to Googling Danny's name until that Friday. And when I did, the first thing that came up was an article in the Nogales International. Former teacher gets prison for sex offense against student.
court will accept the defendant's plea of guilty. Therefore, it's the judgment of the court in CR 19-056 that the defendant is guilty of count 1, which is amended count 3 of the information, attempted sexual conduct with a minor under the age of 15. That's a class 3 felony. The date of the offense was sometime between on or about June 1st and June 30th, 2018. Let me first hear from the state. Mr.
Yes, Your Honor. And I know that the victim and the victim's parents would like to be heard, Your Honor. If the court would like to hear from them.
Of course, whatever order you want.
Thank you.
And hold on, we'll get that microphone turned on in a second. Okay, ma'am, good afternoon. I'm sorry. Take your time, and you're the victim in this case, correct? Take your time and speak slowly and tell me what you'd like me to know this afternoon.
Dear Judge Fink, I never thought I would be in this situation a couple years ago. It has been very hard and painful to go through, but with God, I can handle this. I have grown a lot this year, and I am much wiser and stronger than I was a year ago. In February, when my parents found out what had happened, I felt lost and broken. I had terrible stomach aches and could barely eat. I also could not focus in class. I thought it was all my fault. I thought I was the one who had caused Danny to go to jail. I felt like a traitor, and that I had betrayed him. I truly loved him, and I wanted to do everything to protect him. He was my teacher and a great friend. But somewhere that line was crossed. He used my trust to manipulate me to get what he wanted. He lied to me and confused my mind. I was deceived and influenced into doing something out of my control. It took me a long time to see it this way, and I still find it hard to believe how easily I was manipulated.
After we hear from the victim, her mother and father both read their statements. Danny also has a number of character witnesses who testify on his behalf. Finally, Danny speaks.
I'm here taking responsibility. I'm here in front of you. I'm showing up to my hearings. I understand fully the severity of all this. I understand what I'm looking at, the lifetime supervised probation, 5 to 15 years range. And I apologize to the family, the victim, and what they're going through and everything that's coming. I apologize to the courts. And I thank you for your patience in this process and the prosecution's patience in this process. It has been a little bit drug out. And I'm here in front of you, Your Honor, accepting where I am right now.
Tell me what your relationship was to this victim.
I was the victim's teacher.
All right, and beyond that, you know what I'm asking you.
I'm sorry?
Beyond that, you know what I'm asking you. What was your sexual involvement with this victim?
With attempted sexual conduct with her.
Right, but I'm asking you what it was. I mean, what was your? I know what you pled guilty to.
Oh, the attempt to engage in oral sex with the victim.
Okay. Anything further?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. It's the order of the court. The courts consider the aggravating and mitigating factors in this case. It's the order of the court that the defendant served the slightly mitigated term of 7.5 years in the Arizona Department of Corrections. He's received credit for 94 days of time served.
Danny Gonzalez, you'll remember, is the ex-husband of Gabriel's daughter. His son is Gabriel's grandson. Whether or not Danny is guilty, the conviction is awfully convenient for Gabriel and his followers. None of this is lost on Shiloh.
So for me, with that court case that just happened, and I don't know if he did it or not, but what made me so angry was, why are they picking and choosing who to go after?
Yeah.
You know, a pedophile is a pedophile. And just because his son is Gabriel's grandson and he doesn't want him to have contact, he's going to go after him for this. Why aren't you going after all the other people that you're protecting in there that you're aware of that have done things, you know? And it makes me sick. And I wish that there was something like, if I could take my siblings now, I would. And I'd raise them. I don't care how hard it is or what I need, but I would do it to get them out of there. I don't want them to be in that position. And I don't know what I can do, you know, that I want to.
Fifth Avenue, Pittsburgh. I am on the 1600 block looking for Watson Street, where Anthony Delavan, aka Gabriel, grew up, between 5th and Forbes Avenue in Pittsburgh. 5th and Forbes are kind of the main arteries, and Watson is just a little alleyway that goes through them. There's not really anything in the way of houses left on Watson, so I am on 5th Avenue just trying to find the address. Gabriel Virancha was born as Anthony J. Delavan in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on July 5th, 1946. According to the City Directory of 1965, he grew up at 1715 Watson Street in Pittsburgh's uptown neighborhood. When he was in high school, this was a vibrant residential area with its fair share of Italian-American families. These days, the narrow 19th century row houses that once lined the street are all but gone, largely replaced by parking lots. Still, there are some signs of the old neighborhood. A small cluster of homes on Van Bram Street, Morandi Brothers Italian-American Market on the corner of Watson and Marion, and the old Roma Bottling Company, but the space that once housed the bottling works now contains $200,000 condos. This bar at 1716, I believe this was Sam's Market, 1712, 1714, 1716. It's all one big empty building now. I believe this was the bar where Tony would tell stories, still tell stories, I guess, about how fights would break out in the bar and then end up in his backyard. Also on this bar is a large banner with the realty company's name and phone number, a Remax Realtor, and it says on top, entire city block for sale. And beneath that there is an overhead picture, it's kind of sad, of just an entire block that's been turned into an entire city block that's been turned into one large parking lot, with this bar, this building, being the only thing that stands. And that's Tony's past. It's one thing to know what might be going on behind the fences of Gabriel's compound, but it's quite another to understand why. I had hoped that a trip to Watson Street might unearth some clues, but all I saw when I stood at the former site of the Delavan family home, now an empty lot, was the sign for a place that used to buy blood plasma before it went out of business. You can't say that Gabriel isn't driven. His collected works, the books, the sermons, the music, even the bizarre names he gives his followers, all suggest a desperate need to be recognized, both as a musician and a spiritual leader. To be recognized as something more than human, perhaps, but mostly to be seen and loved and even feared for who he really is. I suspect that the key to all this might be contained in something that he wrote in The Cosmic Family, Volume 1. God is love, according to Gabriel, but God is also discipline and judgment. Here he refers to something called the father circuit. One is tempted to play armchair psychologist when reading this. Might the father circuit be an echo of Gabriel's relationship to his own father? Sanskrita, who never knew her own grandfather, can only relate what Gabriel has told her about their relationship.
And I don't know, like, what could have possibly happened when he was younger. He has explained that his dad, which would make sense with how he was with us too. His dad he called him a wuss and a wimp for wanting to pursue acting and singing, and was very disapproved of that. Just flat out disapproved of him doing that. And my dad wanted to be seen in his eyes as a man, and also as a singer and an actor and whatever else he was pursuing. And I think it was very painful for him, like really painful. And from what I understand, he has said to one of my relatives there, and that he said something once, like, speaking about his father, like, how could a father do that to his son? And so I know to this day it's a wound in him. And, I think anyone and all of us have wounds. And I think that some of us, if we don't do the proper healing and we're not honest about it, things like this happen, where we create these illusions around us. We create these grand, like, plots and schemes, and then we pull people in and want that reinforcement from them, and we end up hurting people because we're hurt too. And he's very hurt. He's just very hurt. And it's hard to see him being hurt. For years, he's just been this way. So
I see some fancy loft apartments. Looks like new construction. A lot of parking lots. Uptown Beer, that's new. Might it be that this whole project, this destructive cult, the Global Community Communications Alliance, is at its heart an anguished cry from a frustrated artist? Has Gabriel assembled what he calls his cosmic family simply because of the love that he didn't receive from his own father? I suppose crazier things have happened, but not much crazier.
It's so hard to see, I have set you free. It's absurdity and not chivalry. It's a fallacy and not gallantry. You don't have to be a celebrity. Yeah, yeah. And you feel that you missed the boat back there. Made a wrong turn, now you're going nowhere. The older you get, the more that you feel. The climb to the top, was it worth the despair?
The So-Called Prophet from Pittsburgh is written, recorded, and edited by me, Joseph L. Flatley. The executive producer is Kay Gerard. Special thanks to Emma Oakes, our voice actor for this episode. I can be found on Instagram and Twitter. The username is @PGHProfit. Or you can reach me through my website, lennyflatley.net.
Here we go. The Spirit Solution movement has begun. Hey!